Good morning. My name is Pastor Allen, and welcome to our church stream. No matter who you are or where you are on life's journey, you are welcome here at Pilgrim Congregational Church, United Church of Christ in Redding, California. And we mean it. You are welcome, all of you, the mess and the beauty. You could have joined any number of church services this morning, and maybe you have, but we appreciate that you are spending some time with us. Obviously, things are a little bit different in our sanctuary this morning. We are taking advantage of this time that we have while we are sheltering at home and staying at home and just figuring out some different ways of doing things as a church. We have a team working on that at the moment, so you're not missing out on anything. This is just something we're working on the side. In fact, if you are watching this here and now, you are participating with us in our community. And especially at 10:30 every Sunday, we have coffee hour. So don't worry, you're not missing anything. You are participating with us. This service begins a special focus over the next few weeks, focusing on education and growth, culminating in Promotion Sunday for our students who are graduating. And Promotion Sunday will be on May 31st, which is also when we celebrate Pentecost. In this service, we'll have our usual service elements, but our book club will be lighting candles, and we'll welcome a guest who is going to speak for just a portion of the sermon. And that will be the case in the next upcoming weeks. I'm going to invite some folks to speak about their deep learning and how that's impacted their lives. And I'm so excited to introduce you to them. So stick around for that. A few other announcements before we light our candles. First, we've established a compassion fund. Your council met together and agreed to open up a fund in our church for folks who are struggling, and if you would like to give to that along with us, you can do so on top of tithes and offerings by sending in a check or contributing online and designating Compassion Fund. In fact, if you would like to give to our church to support our ministries, right below on this video in the description, you should see a link that will take you to a place where you can give that way, or you can send a check. Some of us like to do it straight from our bank to the church, and some of us send old-fashioned checks in the mail, whatever way works for you. We have a youth game night coming up. If you are a parent or a family who has an adolescent, someone in junior high or high school, let them know that we have a game night coming, and we're going to be setting a date very soon for that, so please check your emails. Our book club voted to read in our next selection in a couple weeks. We're going to begin Rachel Held Evans' Inspired. If you would like to join us for that book study, please take a look at your announcements that are being mailed out and secure a copy. Okay, I think that is it for our announcements. Let's welcome our book club as they light the candles in welcoming God into our service this morning.
For all children.
For peace.
For connectedness.
For lifelong learning.
For patience.
For peace in our world and peace in our hearts.
And for, whoa, oh my goodness, I almost burned everything down. And for our Pilgrim Church family.
Oh, yesterday a child came out to wonder, caught a dragonfly inside a jar. Fearful when the seasons, they go round and round, and the painted ponies go up and down. We're captive on a carousel of time. Can't return, we can only look behind from where we came, and go round and round and round in the circle again. Then the boy went 10 years round the season, skated over 10 old frozen streams. Words like when you're older must appease him, and promises of someday fill his dream. And the seasons, they go round and round, and the painted ponies go up and down. We're captive on a carousel of time. Can't return, we can only look behind from where we came, and go round and round and round in the circle again. 16 years and 16 summers gone now. Car wheels turn to cartwheels through the town, and they tell him, take your time, it won't be long now, till you drag your feet and slowly circle down. And the seasons, they go round and round, and the painted ponies go up and down. We're captive on a carousel of time. We can't return, we can only look behind from where we came, and go round and round and round in the circle again. Now the years go by, and now the boy's 20. Though his dreams have lost some grandeur coming true, there'll be new dreams, there'll be better dreams, and plenty, before the last reform year is through. And the seasons, they go round and round, and the painted ponies go up and down. We're captive on a carousel of time. Can't return, we can only look behind from where we came, and go round and round and round in the circle again. And go round and round and round in the circle again. Thank you to the Z's and Mr. Hoxie.
Good morning, Pilgrim kids. Today we are talking about learning and growth. And with learning and growth, I think about what that means, and it's, to me, more like success. And I found a really sweet story that I wanted to share with you, and it's called The Greatest Gift is Love. A woman came out of her house and saw 3 old men with long white beards sitting in her front yard. She did not recognize them. She said, "I don't think I know you, but you must be hungry. Please, come in and have something to eat." "Is the man of the house home?" they asked. "No," she said. "He's out." "Then we cannot come in," they replied. In the evening, when her husband came home, she explained to him what had happened. "Go tell them I am home and invite them in." The woman went out and invited the men in. "We do not go into a house together," they replied. "Why is that?" she wanted to know. One of the old men explained, "His name is Wealth." And he said, pointing to one of his friends, and then pointing to another one, He is success, and I am love. Then he added, now go in and discuss with your husband which one of us you would like to come into your home. The woman went in and told her husband what was said. Her husband was overjoyed. How nice, he said. Since that is the case, let us invite wealth. Let him come in and fill our home with wealth. His wife disagreed. My dear, why don't we invite success? The daughter-in-law was listening from the other corner of the house, and she jumped in with her own suggestion. Would it not be better to invite love? Our home will then be filled with love. Let us heed our daughter-in-law's advice, said the husband to his wife. Go out and invite love to be our guest. The woman went out and asked the 3 old men, which one of you is love? Please, come in and be our guest. Love got up and started walking toward the house. The other 2 also got up and followed him. Surprised, the lady asked Wealth and Success, I only invited Love. Why are you coming in? The old men replied together, if you had invited Wealth or Success, the other 2 of us would have stayed out. But since you invited Love, wherever he goes, we go with him. Wherever there is love, there is also wealth and success. I want you guys to think about that going into the next week. With school almost over, just remember that everything you do, as long as you start with love, will end in wealth and success. Have a wonderful week, and I can't wait to see you all soon.
Today's scripture is from Matthew chapter 11, verses 1 to 6. When Jesus finished teaching his 12 disciples, he went on from there to teach and preach in their cities. Now, when John heard in prison about the things that Christ was doing, he sent word by his disciples to Jesus, asking, Are you the one who is to come, or should we look for another? Jesus responded, Go, report to John what you hear and see. Those who were blind are able to see. Those who were crippled are walking. People with skin diseases are cleansed. Those who were deaf now hear. Those who were dead are raised up. The poor have good news proclaimed to them. Happy are those who don't stumble and fall because of me.
If you can't do, teach, as the old saying goes. And if you can't teach, teach teachers. And if you can't do any of these, there's always the ministry. Apologies to all of the educators and ministers in our congregation. What is the relationship between learning and spirituality, between education and faith? It's a really interesting question. On the one hand, we belong to the United Church of Christ, which has always supported higher education from its founding and from even before it came together in the different streams that make up what our church is. It was the Congregationalists who founded higher places of learning, to my knowledge, like Princeton and Yale and Harvard. And at the same time, we often hear folks longing for a spiritual community where they don't have to check in their brain at the door. What is that about? We hear ministers say, don't give it too much thought, just believe. What is the relationship between learning and faith? This question goes back, in fact, to Jesus himself, the great rabbi, the one that the earliest followers called teacher most often. In Matthew 11, which John Crow read for us just a few seconds ago, the disciples of John come to Jesus when John is in prison and having doubts. And they ask Jesus, John wants to know, are you the one who is to come, or should we look for another? John had already baptized Jesus in the Gospel of Matthew. He had recognized Jesus and had learned from Jesus and felt even unworthy in his presence. All of these things. And then he has second thoughts. And Jesus, instead of saying, "Oh, you of little faith, why haven't you believed? Just believe in me." No, Jesus says none of this. Instead, the rabbi tells John's followers, "Go back to John and report what you see and hear." Use your senses. Use the tools available to you. Use your agency to think and learn and process and report what you see. This is the rabbi blessing students with learning. In the next few Sundays, including right now, I am inviting some thinkers and pastors who are near and dear to me to share times and moments and things that they've learned that have impacted their faith and their life. This morning, we get to welcome Jeff Manildi. I've known Jeff for a really long time. He is a co-host with me on our podcast, and he's someone that is dear to me. And so it is with a lot of excitement that I get to introduce you all to Jeff Manildi to share one of his learnings.
Hello, everyone at Pilgrim Congregational Church. My name is Jeff Manildi, and I am co-host of Irenicast, a progressive Christian podcast. And your pastor, the great Reverend Alan O'Brien, asked me to send a video and give some of my thoughts on your current series that you're going through, valuing education and specifically targeting the phrase or command of Jesus to see and hear. And Alan asked me to kind of share a time or something that I learned that has profound impact on the way that I live my life, or have lived my life up until this point, at least. And the only thing I could think of is when I was in Bible college. I was first starting my ministry. I was a youth pastor for close to a decade. I was given an assignment to write a paper on Luke chapter 9, verses 45 to 56, I believe. And in that passage, Jesus is sitting down with his disciples and they're arguing about who the greatest is. And Jesus tries to teach them a lesson by bringing a child over and to, say that, when you put yourself in the lowest position, then you are the greatest. And John pipes up and totally missing the point of what Jesus just said, and tells Jesus that he stopped someone from casting out demons because, that was their job. And Jesus again had to rebuke them. They just didn't get it. And that verse in of itself was fine. But as I was I had to do the whole exegesis thing and look at the surrounding passages. And one thing that really struck me and has struck me and continues to strike me is that verse is almost in the middle of two call narratives, where Jesus, before that, calls the 12 disciples. Probably something we've heard a lot about, where Jesus pulls them from their work and says, "Go, I'm sending you out to do the work that I'm doing." And that's a pretty amazing moment. I mean, here you're being called to be Jesus' disciple, and the whole point of that is education. As you're following in your rabbi's feet, you're following your teacher, you're learning his ways, you're educating yourself through experience and teachings of this great man, moral leader, teacher. And then from there, it's a series of events where these disciples are struggling with their privilege. They're struggling with the knowledge and the experience that they've been given that is in some ways far above and beyond what others around them are experiencing. And it's a series of them taking that education for granted. And the next chapter begins with Jesus calling 70 more people in the same way that he called the 12. And the one thing that I've always tried to remember from that, and the thing that keeps teaching me, is that the more I learn, the more I grow, the more I move forward, is that my knowledge, my education, the things that I learn, the things that I hold deep in my life, they're never meant to prop me up. In fact, I'm always living in that tension between being special and just being like everyone else, and recognizing that the things that I have been given are to lift people up, not to lift myself up. And it's something that I have to remember on a regular basis. And I've had to confront that in my life in a lot of different ways. And I'm thankful for that lesson. And I'm thankful for the things that I've been given. But I also recognize that if I'm not using that knowledge, which knowledge is power, if I'm not using that to level the playing field, so to speak, if I'm not using that to put myself in a place to be taught on a continuing basis, if I'm using that to prop myself up in ways that are unhealthy and damaging to others, then what is the use of my education other than to make myself look good? So I guess that's the thing that comes to mind when I hear this idea of see and hear. It's recognizing the context that we're in and using whatever we've been given for the greater good, so to speak. So thank you for taking the time. I hope you are all well, and I hope that as you move forward as a congregation, that you continue to remember your calling, so to speak. So thank you very much.
At this time, we want to recognize all of our teachers and all of our kids who are getting ready to move on in their educational travel. We hope that during this time, they will get the recognition they so deserve, and that we have an opportunity to celebrate them in our future. We'd also like to thank all those teachers who are working so hard in distance learning so that the kids will feel good about what they're doing in their educational process. God bless you all. This song, Praise the Source of Faith and Learning, is dedicated to you. Praise the source of faith and learning that has sparked and stoked the mind with a passion for discerning how the world has been designed. Let the sense of wonder flowing from the wonders we survey keep our faith forever growing and renew our need to pray. God of wisdom, we acknowledge that our science and our art and the breadth of human knowledge only partial truth impart. Far beyond our calculation lies a depth we cannot sound, where your purpose for creation and the pulse of life are found. May our faith redeem the blunder of believing that our thought has displaced the grounds for wonder which the ancient prophets taught. May our learning curb the error which unthinking faith can breed, lest we justify some terror with anti-quantified greed.
And so, this week, may you learn something new that you've never known before. May this invitation from the teacher, Jesus, guide you into receiving information from your senses, to use all of your agency, to pursue and grow in the questions that are guiding you. And may God be with you on this journey, be with us on this journey of learning. Amen.
God be with you. God